Okay, so I was given pretty much free rein on what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So I decided to talk about the thing that has influenced my life the most, the gospel. Aside from just salvation, which was around when I was about 4, the gospel has influenced my life in more ways than one. And it's always been important to me for as long as I can remember. By the age of 7, I think that was about the time I had my last salvation assurance. And that was the time when I really knew the gospel. I knew what it meant. I understood the concepts fully. I could repeat it back to you if you wanted. And it was important to me, not just accepting it, but also to tell it to others. And this was important to me largely because of my father. He really impressed that upon me. In fact, we even made a little craft together. We call it the Wordless Box.
Nice.
We took some origami that I was doing and we added the Wordless book to it. And my dad, he made up a script and he practiced it many times and I listened to him practice and I could sort of do it as well. But he seemed, so eloquent in the way that he did it. And I was just kind of like, this part's green, grass is green, God made that. But then sin came into the world. That's bad. But then Jesus came into the world. That's good. This part's red because of his blood.
Yeah.
And God lives in heaven. And you can be in heaven one day too. If you ask Jesus into your heart, then you can be made clean like this part. And that one day when you die, you can go to live with him in heaven and leave your sin behind.
Nice.
Which is pretty good for a 7-year-old when you think about it. But I was not confident in this at all. I did not share the gospel with anyone, even though I could have, even though it was extremely important to me. I mean, I saw my friends, I watched them move away, and I knew that I would never see them again unless I shared the gospel with them and they received Christ. So it wasn't because I was apathetic. And I'm trying to think, why was the reason? Why didn't I share to anyone as a kid? Well, it wasn't because I was apathetic. And it also wasn't because I was afraid of rejection. I mean, I was afraid of rejection and failure and a lot of other things. But when it came to the gospel, that wasn't even a possibility in my mind. You see, my thought went like this. You preach, they receive. You always give the invitation, and then there's no reason why anyone wouldn't receive Jesus. I mean, it must be because they've never heard about him before, or they've never understood. But it was the whole leading them to Christ thing. It was because there was no rejection, because that you couldn't just tell the gospel and then run away. That, you had to actually then lead them to Christ. That was the part which I was afraid of. And I didn't really have to deal with why I didn't want to do this, why I was afraid of this, until I turned 13, when I joined CEF and Child Evangelism Fellowship, and I went to training camp. And the first 3 days are dedicated to the Wordless book and being able to proficiently lead someone to Christ. So I struggled in more ways than one, in ability, but also I struggled with God. Because I had to figure out, why am I so afraid of this? It wasn't just fear. All of my anxieties and fears and all came out in one prayer to God. I said, God, leading someone to Christ is too holy a job for me to do. When I was little, I thought, that's something that the elders can do, or really my sister had done it too, so pretty much, she's like, yeah, why not every other Christian but me? How about that? I said, it's too holy for me to do. I'm not worthy to do this task. Choose someone who's more qualified, someone who's older, someone who's been in the ministry longer, someone better than me. I don't belong here. Get me out of here. And I was reading in the book of John, and I got to chapter 17, and I got to the part which is where Jesus, he's praying because he's going to be on the cross soon. So he's praying for the disciples as well as himself, kind of sending them off in a way. One of the things he says is that my prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. It's kind of God's way of saying, I'm not taking you out of this camp. This is where I want to protect you, but I'm not taking you out. You got to follow through. You can't just shrug off your responsibility onto unnamed others. It says, they are not of the world, even as I am not of it. Sanctify them by the truth. Your word is the truth. He was showing me it's the Holy Spirit that makes you qualified. that makes you qualified for that work. It's not the status of an elder, or how long you've been in the ministry, or how old you are. Plus it's the Holy Spirit who really does it, who really does the whole salvation process anyway. I also had a little misunderstanding about the Holy Spirit. You see, up until that point, I can't remember ever asking God for the strength to do something. Everything that I did was for Him, not with Him. It was like, I'm going to do this for God. And when it came to CEF, I had to ask God for strength because there was lots of stuff that I needed help with. Really understanding the role of the Holy Spirit in my life, and what He wanted from me was not to be able to run the whole operation, because, trying to lead someone to Christ in your own power was really foolish, but try it. But we're called to be a willing instrument. And it can be scary because the instrument doesn't always know what the person is doing, but to be a willing instrument of God, that's not just my calling for CEF, but it's the calling for the rest of my life. It's, even if I'm not exactly sure how He's moving, to trust in Him, to give up my fear to Him.
Yes, amen.